Symbols are used as the primary means of visual communication. Every version of the Latin alphabet is a list of symbols that are used to form words. When we read words, we don't think about the symbols. Instead, we think about the meaning. Our brains take action without us having to consciously do the thinking. In Taoism, that's called Wu Wei. When we drive a car, the practice of Wu Wei becomes a matter of life and death. It allows us to quickly take action. Traffic signs are symbols. When we see a stop sign, we stop. When we see a warning sign, we look at the symbol within the warning sign to see what we are being warned about. Then we pay attention to that. It's communication by Wu Wei. A symbol is the address of what it represents. Magicians try to readdress symbols to control us by Wu Wei. It's spiritual warfare. Take the swastika as an example of that. It's a beautiful ancient symbol that has been used throughout the world, especially as a sign of prosperity and good fortune. It's used in Indian religions. In fact, the word swastika comes from Sanskrit, where it has the meaning conducive to well-being. At one point in Western history, Theosophists decided to use this symbol. Then the National Socialists adapted the symbol and launched the Second World War, but they lost the war. Other socialists renamed them as the Nazis and equated National Socialism with rightism. Nazi is a magic word which was in German a colloquial and derogatory word for a backwoods farmer, villager, or peasant. In the Western world, the swastika became a symbol of so-called Nazism and so-called extreme rightism. Socialists in the West began to call themselves liberals, which is what many rightists call themselves. Instead of refusing this political appropriation, they allowed themselves to be renamed to libertarians. The swastika symbol, the word Nazi, the term National Socialist, and so on were all readdressed. That's how magic works. Through cultural, political, and theological appropriation, evil changes the meaning of symbols to make itself look good and to make good look evil. Then good is blamed for cultural, political, and theological appropriation instead. Switcheroo. White people who sell food that has originated in non-white countries are accused nowadays of cultural appropriation. The average person doesn't even think about the switcheroo or even notices it. They accept it like they accept traffic signs. Westerners have been domesticated through magic. The general Westerner now associates nationalism with racism, rainbows with paraphilia, swastika with fascism, and so on. No one else in the world makes these associations in general. Outside of the Western world, racism is considered to be completely normal throughout the world. In the Western world, Westerners have been conditioned into allowing their countries to be colonized. In other words, they have been enchanted into accepting national appropriation to prove to the world that they are not racist. Those who don't protect their country don't protect their women. Men are the male representation of their country. Women are the female representation of their country. Anyone can come to Europe, for example, and pimp European women. They are free for appropriation. Even when the colonizers commit terrorist attacks, Westerners rather face brutal execution than to fight back and be called racist. The word appropriation is just a fancy word for stealing, just like the word taxes is just a fancy word for financial appropriation. The 8th commandment, which is stated in Deuteronomy chapter 5 verse 19, forbids appropriation. In John chapter 10 verse 10, Yahshua states that the thief only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Unfortunately, Christians and Protestants in particular haven't figured that out. Their leaders love to condemn everything that doesn't fit into their theology, which they love to label as satanic or pagan. Ask them what paganism means. They will have no idea. If you don't believe in their version of so-called Jesus, you will go to hell according to them. If you don't believe in their version of salvation, you will go to hell according to them. If you don't believe that only they follow the one true religion and the one true denomination of that religion, you will go to hell or at least have an easier time ending up in hell. Evil loves that with a burning passion because everything that is labeled as evil becomes an invitation for evil to appropriate it. For example, Christians have once used the pentagram to symbolize the 5 wounds of Yahshua, but now the pentagram is mainly associated with occultism. The upside-down cross was traditionally used by Christians, but now it's mainly associated with Satanism and the rejection of Christianity. The all-seeing eye symbol was once used by Christians to represent the omniscience and omnipresence of God, but now it's mainly associated with Freemasonry. The solution to appropriation is restitution. I would describe the opposite of magic as mystic. Restitution is a good example of mystic. If you wear a necklace with an upside-down cross, for example, many people will think that you are a Satanist. When one of them approaches you, it will give you the opportunity to educate that person. So you will be restoring the address of that symbol. You are more likely to win a war through communication than with bullets. Revelation chapter 19 verse 15 states about the next incarnation of the Logos, start quote, "Out of his mouth proceeds a sharp double-edged sword, that with it he should strike the nations. He will rule them with an iron rod." End quote. Hebrews chapter 4 verse 12 states, "For the word of God is living and active, and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing of soul and spirit, of both joints and marrow, and is able to discern the thoughts and intentions of the heart." It's important to not give anything to the enemy, not even one quectometer of anything. It's like the saying, give them a finger and they'll take the whole hand. Once the enemy has the whole hand, the whole arm will be demanded. Eventually, you will have nothing left to give to the enemy. Evil cannot be appeased. Whatever you give to evil is like watering a tree from which you will hang once it becomes big enough to support your weight. The Western world and the Christian world are full of such trees. They have become the opposite of the Garden of Eden. Catholicism, Orthodox Christianity, and Protestantism are done. They are already defeated because they have watered the trees from which already many of them are hanging. Their churches are losing members all the time. They have given up on their countries, women, children, and so on. Their priests and pastors condemn everything and everyone they dislike straight to hell, and that's where they ended up. Don't just take from Orthodox Christianity what you like and can't get from your current Christian denomination and then return to them. I've seen that happen. Don't go back to the losing team. Join the winning team.